Hello and welcome to episode 48 of Daryl Show Your Work. And this will be an episode where we're going to be using both our blue hats and our red hats. And we're going to specifically be working with a web application firewalls. And a web application firewall that we're going to be mainly dealing with here in this video is mod security, which is an open source WAF. And WAF is short for um, web application firewall. All right, so first we're going to go through how to configure a mod security web application firewall to block a malicious script that can either be used for local file inclusion or remote access code execution. And then we're going to, once we are able to successfully block that, we're going to also see how we can alter that code then to an attempt to bypass the our mod security web application firewall and see how that works out for us. All right. So to get started, the first thing that I'm gonna need to do is I have to copy the configuration file into our local directory. So to do that, I have to use sudo privileges. All right. Then we're gonna use the CP, which is for copy. All right. So we want to take we're going to take the recommended um, mod security configuration files, and we're going to copy them over into our local directory here. All right, so this is just where that config file is located. All right, this is the recommended um, config file, and I'm telling it to then copy that over to the same place, except we're just going to have it be our standard config file here for mod security. All right, just checking my syntax here to make sure that everything is right, that I didn't fat finger anything. Looks like, all right, I should be good to go. All right, gotta give it my password. All right, no errors. So it looks like I'm good to go. All right, so now that we got that config file copied over, now I need to open up the config file with our text editor and make some changes to it. All right, in order to do that, using sudo again. Now I'm gonna use the nano text editor. All right, and then we're gonna go right back into Etsy mod security to where our configuration file is located, and we're going to open it up for editing. All right, we're in. So we're going to go down here. We don't have to go very far. So right now, this is our current security rule that's activated. So I'm gonna make a change here, and I'm gonna get rid of detection only, and I'm just gonna set it to on. All right. So what this does is switches my security from passive logging only mode to active blocking mode, where it will intercept suspicious traffic based on its rules. All right. So we're putting it into a more active mode. So I'm gonna hit exit, and then I'm gonna save it. All right, hit enter. All right, then the next thing we need to do in order to apply these changes, I have to reset or restart the Apache database server. So in order for me to do that, I'm gonna just do sudo etc and then init for initiate, and then .d, and then I'm gonna tell it Apache 2, and I want it to restart it. All right. hit enter. All right, so it looks like that was restarted now. All right, so now let's test out our mod security web application firewall. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run an exploit that targets a Gila content management system by uploading a reverse shell script and then issuing a specifically crafted request that includes and excludes the uploaded shell, or excuse me, not excludes, executes the uploaded shell. All right. So the first thing to get started with that is I want to run a Netcat listener, because we're going to run this in order to see if our as a means to have our port open, have a port open in order to try to establish a shell, a reverse shell session by executing this script. So I'm going to write the the netcat command here, which is nc-nvlp, and then we want to specify the port, which is on port 1337. All right, so once I do that, it should start listening, which it does. And I'm going to open up a new terminal here, and this terminal is where I'm actually going to be launching the exploit. All right, so in order to do that, I'm going to switch to an admin account. So I'm just going to do su for switch user, and then admin. All right, so I'm giving my admin password. All right, now I'm in admin, and I need to switch directories here to where the exploit is housed. So in order to do that, I'm gonna do a cd for change directory, and I'm gonna say home, admin, and it's in the exploits folder. All right, and just do a list here. All right, so I am going to be using the PHP reverse shell JPEG file here to launch my exploit. And I'm gonna go into, once we kind of get into this, I'm going to explain exactly what this exploit is that I'm running. But let's get it running first, and let's see what happens. So now it's time to execute this file. So I'm gonna say sudo. All right, and then like usual, when we want to execute, we put period backslash. Oops, hold on. My backslash is running away from me. All right, and then I want to say reverse shell. Actually, I'm sorry. I got ahead of myself. In this specific portion of the video, no, we're actually going to be working with the reverse shell exploit Python script. But later we'll be working with this PHP reverse shell JPEG. All right, so I'm gonna say dash shell dash exploit. All right, .py for Python. All right, and then I want to tell it where I want to aim this at, and I want to aim this at the web server that's hosting this content management system, which is Gila, HTTP gila.ii. All right, then I want to make sure I specify too what IP address that lives at. All right, so which is at 192.168.1.100. All right, then I'm going to specify the port that we will listen on, which is 1337. All right, so I'm just checking my syntax here. It looks like everything is good as far as the naming of the file, as far as the URL, and then the IP address and port. So I'm going to hit enter. All right, I give it a password here again. All right, so according to this, it's everything went well as far as it's attempting to execute the uploaded reverse shell, and it's telling me to check my listener. So let's go back to the listener here in the first terminal. As we can see, nothing happened. So that's actually a good sign that our mod security web application firewall is working. So apparently it blocked the attempt of this file to try to make a connection to port 1337, and it blocked it. So let's go back here and let's get an idea of how that um, may have happened. Okay, so the next thing we need to do is let's nano into this file and and see exactly how it works. This reverse shell exploit. All right, so I'm gonna do a sudo nano.l. All right, then we need to go into the actual directory that's located in, which is home admin, and then we're in the exploits folder, and then the file we want to open is reverse shell dot exploit dot py. All right, everything looks good as far as syntax. Hit enter. All right, so we're in the file. So I'm going to scroll down a bit here. All right, so if we look here at line 78, all right, so actually, yeah, this is where I kind of misspoke before as far as the PHP reverse shell.jpg. This is actually the file that's actually being called by this Python script. So what we can see going on here, that this exploit attempts to include and execute the reverse shell using a relative path, and this triggers my security, which detects a directory transversal pattern, and the way that we can kind of see where how it's detecting the directory transversal pattern is by right here. So when we see dot slash, that's very indicative of a something relevant to a directory transversal type of attack, or directory transversal type of exploit. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to try to bypass my security now by changing this line. And now instead of it looking at this this relative path, we're going to try to specify it to look at a absolute path. All right, so instead of it doing dot, we're going to put something a bit more concrete in here for it to look somewhere more specific, and we're going to say backslash var backslash www backslash html backslash, and let's bridge this gap here with that. All right. So again, what this is going to do, this should bypass mod security by again having this exploit use a absolute path instead of a relative one. And I'll explain to you as we go through with this. I'll explain to you what's going on here. So I'm gonna do Control X to get out of this, and I'm hit yes to save. All right, now let's try to run this again. So I'm gonna go back here in my history. All right. All right. So we're gonna run this again and let's see what happens this time. So my Netcat listener should still be listening. It's listening still. All right. So we had to check on that. All right. So let's see if anything happens now when I try to do this reverse shell. All right. Got all the same messages. And let's see. And look at there. Right here. You can see now we've made a connection, and we have our shell session here, and it's giving me a user ID, it's giving me a group ID, and the groups that I'm in. So we were able to bypass mod security by adjusting that relative path into an absolute path. So what this shows us is that the web application firewall can only filter out what it detects as suspicious traffic, and it cannot fix the underlying vulnerabilities. So since var ww html assets and php reverse shell .jpg did not have a directory transversal pattern, and is not a well-known file, my security was unable to determine if it was a malicious request. So that's what happened here when we made that slight change from the relative path to the absolute path. Now, one thing we can do is we can also play with something called the paranoia level within mod security. So uh, so the paranoia levels, they range from 0 at the lowest and to 5 at the highest. So if we were going to talk about paranoia level 0 with mod security, it would cause the mod security web application firewall only to block requests that it is certain are part of an attack. Where we would have set the paranoia level as something as high as 5, it would then block any request that appears even slightly suspicious, which is ill advised, because then that's how we can lead to false positives, which we want to avoid as much as possible. But let's see how we can do that. So in order to start doing that, we can go inside of the core rule and a configuration file and start setting some things in there. So in order to get to that configuration file, I'm gonna use my trusty text editor again. All right, and this time we're gonna go inside of a different directory here within Etsy mod security, and we're gonna go inside the CRS folder. All right, so Etsy mod. All right, do go CRS, and that's for the core rule set. All right, then we're going to, the name of the file is CRS for core rule set setup. All right, dot config for short for configuration. All right, so this should open that file up for us. All right, so we need to make a couple of adjustments to this file. So I'm going to scroll down quite a ways here. And there's two lines in particular that I'm going to need to uncomment. All right, so first I am going to uncomment line 176, which is going to activate this section of the configuration file, and then a specific area under this section that I want to activate is the paranoia level part of the script. And so let's say I wanted to set, I could set it to anything, and I'm going to set it to level 2. All right. So this is something where, again, it's not necessarily as low as 0, where it's only going to block things that mod security absolutely knows is part of an attack, but it's also not going to do anything extreme that's going to block any little thing that it finds suspicious and gives us a bunch of false positives. So 2 is something that's probably a relatively safe level to set it at, as far as trying to catch any sort of anomalies as far as traffic going in and out, as far as web traffic, and blocking those type of malicious type of activities. So I'm going to hit Control X, hit yes to save, And so that is how we set paranoia levels for the mod security web application firewalls. And this brings me to the end of our video. So to summarize what was done here, we just briefly went over how to configure our mod security web application firewall to be able to block things such as a local file inclusion or a remote code execution, which at first we were able to successfully do when running the initial attack. And it's something before I do that, there's actually something that I did want to look at. Let me go back here. Let's go back into that into our file. So I wanted to touch on the exact attack that I ran against our content management system, and that was the CVE 2020 5513, which is a local file inclusion attack. So basically, what this attack it does is it allows for the disclosure of sensitive internal network information, such as internal domain names or IP addresses, to a potential attacker. So I meant to mention that when we first went in here and we modified this file to look for an absolute path instead of a a more of it's a word I'm looking for, more of a relative one. All right, so I forgot to mention that, so just wanted to go back in here and cover that. But yeah, again, bring this to this step, going back over the explanation of things. We were then able to mess with the configuration of the exploit itself, which we see here, and we were able to change how this exploit works. Instead of looking for a relative path, um, utilizing directory transversal and looking more for an absolute path. And again, because our web application firewall was unfamiliar with this sort of attack pattern, we were able to bypass the bypass the firewall by doing that. And then we also went over how to set paranoia levels, what the highest paranoia level does, what the lowest paranoia level does, and how we can go into the core configuration file for that, and how we can then set it to a paranoia level that may work best for our situation, and try to reduce the case of any sort of false positives or missing anything that mod security may not immediately recognize. All right, so please like, subscribe, and share. Most importantly, show your work. And until next time, take care of yourself and God bless.